Hello, everybody. This is No One Unscripted, and we are on the fifth episode of Utopia Talking. Uh, this is, I'm going to try to keep it short because I think I'm talking too slowly. Uh, but you can always speed the video up. Please do. I really want to thank everybody who's shared, everybody who's watched, everybody who's liked. Um, and everybody who sees what I'm saying. This episode, I want to give an update because I feel like and it's been a while. It's been about 5 months that I did my last episode. Uh, so thanks for sticking with me. And tomorrow will be the Senate vote on the January 6th commission. And I really didn't. I honestly didn't think that the Republican Party would be this uh, shameless, this brazen about um, their rebellion. It's a rebellion against the Constitution of the United States. It's by tacitly condoning, and you cannot even say tacitly when you have the House minority leader uh, going to pay homage to the uh, former guy, and there's still a debate in the United States of America that January 6th was anything other than an insurrection, which was just the spearhead of the seditious conspiracy that Donald had started. I mean, it was ongoing for quite some time, and everyone kept saying, "Oh yeah," with one of the most common comments on my videos is that, "Oh yeah, we all knew it was coming." Well, yeah, we all knew it was coming, but had he stopped doing what he was doing after November 3rd, after the election, it would have been just campaign. But after November 3rd, it was no longer campaigning. At that point, it was an active, this conspiracy had already transpired, it had already vested. And that's why it's kind of confounding to me why it's still taking the Department of Justice and FBI to make arrests and public indictments and start with going full throttle on Donald and every single person on who are agents of Donald. And it's really interesting because people like Dan Bongino and Jack Posobiec, I may be mispronouncing his name, and Rudy Giuliani, they all have just blocked me on Twitter because every single time, right after Rudy Giuliani posted, the search warrant was executed on Rudy Giuliani's home, and 18 or whatever obscene amount of devices. Sorry about the hair, by the way. And it's in better shape than the GOP's conscience, I can say. Anyway, I posted on Rudy's Twitter that, oh yeah, he's trying to bait the FBI guys into taking evidence outside the scope of the warrant so he can use that to get out of the case. And then like in 15 minutes I was blocked. But I don't care. I like it. But I like it more so because I know that I'm in the right direction. Because if I was just jabbering at them, and many people do, but they just don't want me to be anywhere near their content because it undermines what they're doing and exposes them. So it's kind of gives me a little bit of pleasure. But that being said, these are some of the people, and there are many of them. there are obvious people all over the Fox News network, which is not really news, by the way. It shouldn't be called the news network. It should be called the tabloid of the United States. So it's astounding to me that there's still even a question, right? That the GOP, a minority, 35 Republicans in the House voted for the January Commission. It's just, it blows my mind. I'm a naturalized citizen of the United States, and I don't have the right to ever be the president of the United States because I wasn't born there. But what is really mind-blowing to me is how people who are born in the United States are actively, and who are in positions of elected power, who presumptively know the Constitution of the United States because they took an oath to protect, defend it against enemies, foreign and domestic, by the way. And they keep on doubling down with this seditionist. I don't understand it. Gladys Sicknick, mother of Brian Sicknick, I believe her name is Gladys. She has requested a meeting with the Senate GOP, and tomorrow is their vote because Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has promised that he's going to force this commission vote. Now, I at this point I have enough trust in Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats and the 35 Republicans to say that this bill is fine. But the GOP won't pass it, not because they want to stop investigations into what happened on January 6th. Let me be clear on that. There's nothing that can stop the investigations into January 6th, 2021. What the GOP is trying to do with stopping and obstructing the commission is the funding. Because it takes money to do the investigations. And FBI is a massive organization, but it has its limits. It doesn't deal with the arrest of over 500 people. It'll get to 500, don't worry. I'm just letting you know now. Come back to me in like 2 months. And it's not accustomed to taking that many defendants in on one case. Many active, ongoing. It's just so it's funding. It's right. So what they want, what the GOP wants, is to drop it because January 6th exposed this supremacist underbelly of America that I talk about in Suckle of Utopia. I think 3rd episode. And it's premised on racism and white supremacy. But prejudice has taken many forms over many millennia. So this is just the veneer of the supremacy. The ideology is age-old. So you have to look further to see how they go on infecting people's minds. And that's through power, control, fear, lies, false hope. It's just, the playbook is just so simple, but it's effective and it's age-old. That's how the Roman Catholic Church did it. That's how the British did it. That's how the slavers did it. That's how, that's my purview. I don't know anything beyond that. That's how the slavers and the invaders did to the Native Americans. That's what the ancient invaders of the Indian subcontinent did to the indigenous population of the Indian subcontinent. So but I think that time needs to stop. It's time. It's too much. It's too much. It's because it's too much is at stake at the moment. Uh, not just from a local standpoint, not just from a constitutional standpoint, which is we are wading neck deep in constitutional crises after constitutional crises, and we are just so numb to that at the moment that everything is just going dilly dally, holly, 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 and there's going to be a huge crash coming, economic crash, and the GOP is going to try to blame that on Joe Biden, when in truth every economist and every reasonable person knows that you don't see the effects of uh, something like a pandemic or something like uh, what happened in the United States, systemic corruption and failure during the last 4 years of Donald's administration. You just have, hold on, drink some water. So with all of this, I a little bit lost my train of thought. That's what happens when you go unscripted. Be kind enough to like it if you like it. If you don't, you don't. Unlike it too, it's okay. Interact, connect with me. I like that. So the GOP wants to overwhelm the system. Let me get back to the point. The GOP wants to overwhelm the FBI and the investigative apparatus of the justice system, criminal justice system, of Merrick Garland and the U.S. attorney's offices all over. And they want to exhaust them physically. They want to exhaust their money. They want to exhaust it so that it comes to a stall, because that supremacy that got exposed cannot be exposed. Like the Heritage Foundation by the Kochs, like Rebecca Mercer, who funds Parler and Breitbart, among the funders. And then you have the Van Andels and the DeVosses of Michigan. There are people all over in every state. So our job right now is to go find these billionaires and multi-millionaires and some of the people who have benefited from the trickle down. Because remember, there are the billionaires like the Van Andels, the Kochs, the Mercers, the DeVosses, but then there are also people underneath them who are more influential locally, like, for example, Justice Clarence Thomas's wife, who operates in the shadows, or Mitch McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao, who was the former the Secretary of Transportation. Those were some of the people who peaked out. Like, they were all surrounding Donald during his administration, not because they were supporting him, but because they were keeping an eye on him. That there are just certain things that they wouldn't allow him to say or do, because ultimately they are the kingpins and they are the handlers. Donald is the headliner. I've been saying this for a long time. And so, I mean, the Kochs are the massive people. So it's like the whale in the pond, because that's what it is at this point, because the GOP is shrinking to such a point that it's literally, this last poll was 53% of the GOP still think Donald Trump, I had to say his name in full, is still president. But it's a shrinking Republican Party. And the last time they did that poll, it was 70-some%. So it's a shrinking majority of a shrinking party. I don't know how that's a good thing. But anyway, let them think it. Let them think it. So with the commission, it's beyond me. I think that the first thing that needs to happen tomorrow is the entire Congress needs to hear Gladys Sigmund. It needs to be publicized. She needs to be able to give, as if she is comfortable with it. If she is comfortable with talking to the nation along with Congress, then that, allowing her to speak, because she deserves the January 6th Commission. She deserves it. And as does Ashley Babbitt's family, who are suing the wrong people, by the way. They should be suing the Donald Trump campaign. They should be suing every single person who incited. They should be suing every single person who misdirected Ashley, who was a veteran. So, and then after that, they can take the vote. They let Officer Sicknick's mother speak, and then they take the vote. Give her that. Give her that. If the GOP Senate still doesn't have 10 senators after that, after Officer Sicknick's mother speaks, then there's no soul left in the GOP, and we can finally bury the body. There's no question about it. Because for me, it's at this point, they're all traitors. Not all, I can't be plenary about it. There are people like Mitt Romney. There are people who've, like Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins. Oh God, I had to say that name. These people have voice. I mean, what kind of apprehension is that? What are you apprehensive about? That you're going to betray your Constitution? That should be the most imminent thing in your head. If you vote no on the January 6th Commission, you're saying that we're not going to fund investigation into the most invasive breach from the inside that the United States has ever seen. Why? Okay, so the Huffington Post journalist who said January 6th is 1,000 times worse than 9/11. It may have been. You can't compare storms. You can't compare Hurricane Sandy to Hurricane Katrina. They were both storms, but they did not leave the same footprint. They did not leave the same legacy. They did not happen in the same places. The people who managed and took care weren't the same people after the fact. And so the consequences of the recovery from both Hurricane Sandy and Hurricane Katrina were completely different. And I know that because I was there afterwards in a volunteer capacity in both the cities after both the hurricanes. So in the same manner, you can't compare it. In 9/11, over 3,000 people died. And even to this day, if you go to the FBI Twitter page, if nowhere else, occasionally you'll see people and officers and FBI agents dying who were first responders during 9/11. But Osama bin Laden was also not an American citizen, let alone the president, the sitting president of the United States. He wasn't. Right? And Al-Qaeda wasn't the minority party at the time of the insurrection, the ruling party of the United States of America. Actively condoning and trying, the leader of it, the sitting president, inciting and conspiring and ordering the Department of Defense to defend his supporters who were breaching into the Capitol and yelling to kill the Speaker of the House and the Vice President, his Vice President. As if it was a joke, because it would have been a joke had they stopped and said it outside the Capitol building like normal protesters. But they didn't. They weren't tourists. They invaded, and to a certain level, that lack of apprehension from a white mob coming at you because of inundation over centuries. They let some of them in through, but you see people breaking the Capitol. You see them. I mean, how do you say no to the January 6th Commission after watching Officer Hodges crushed at the door? That was happening near real time. People were watching that. Reporters were there. People like Igor, I don't remember his last name, Officer Eugene Goodman. These people, Brian Sicknick's information came out afterwards. Officer Sicknick's. After, what was that made up? It was some big wag the dog incident? No. How can it be? Officer Sicknick's not here. And Ashley Babbitt's family is not suing the Capitol Police or whoever because Ashley Babbitt is still walking around. So, I mean, if you, I don't know. There are people who are posting that, think about Ashley. Of course I'm thinking about Ashley Babbitt. She was misled to her death. She was a veteran. Dumbasses. So, it makes no sense except that they are covering up their tracks and they don't want their major funders like the white supremacist Koch brothers and the Mercers and these leeches on American democracy and our republic, these people, because they get the money, because the real GOP, Lincoln's party, died when Nixon went crooked. And they've just been, going crooked and crooked and crooked and crooked and spiraling out of control. And we're at a point now that, Donald is just a headliner, like I said. There's going to be someone else, but the funders will be the same. So you have to please become aware, tell people that it's still ongoing, right? It's still ongoing. When the GOP leadership goes to Mar-a-Lago to pay homage to the former guy, they're not going just to pay homage. They're giving a tacit, hey, hats to all the funders, saying that, look, we get it. All right. We're gonna brush this. We're gonna find a way to push this under the rug, because otherwise they're not gonna get any more of that funding. And if they don't get any more of that funding, there's not going to be any more gerrymandering. And these conspiracy theories will go away, and the people who have been duped for so long will start to wake up. And then they will be chased out of there with pitchforks. Still have pitchforks? So that's the update that I want to give you. And that's, they're doing it for the funding. They don't want to give funding to have a proper investigation, to be able to go down to those people, because that would dismantle the dystopia they've created for their benefit. That would be to the benefit of our country. That would be to the benefit of our economy, our schools, our environment, everything, our children's futures. It would be to the benefit of that. But it would not be to the benefit of the coke industry. It would not be to the benefit of the oil oligarchs of West Virginia. It would not be to the advantage of the silent handlers in Arizona and Illinois and Michigan. Michigan, we know, it's the Van Andels and the DeVosses. They came out. So I request that as we approach this Pride Month, that we do our best to pull out of those seditious closets the people who are funding the sedition that continues. And I implore everybody to call their senators and their Congress members to allow for Gladys Sicknick, the mother of Officer Brian Sicknick, to speak, whether it be virtual and be broadcasted internationally along with Congress, or whether it happened in closed session with Congress. I believe everybody needs to hear it, but that's the purview of the leaders. And we do have the majority leader Chuck Schumer, and we do have the majority Speaker Pelosi. So let's use that. Yeah, let's find some procedural rules that Mitch McConnell adopted and made his own for the last 4 years, and let's use those. Let's make sure that we can have an open, transparent, give her the time to let the world know what she believes should happen in order for her to get closure for her son who died. In the hospital who died in the hospital after experiencing bear spray and a fire hydrant to the head. And he was ruled to have died from a stroke. And there's this disjunct that that January 6th had no part to play with it. And obviously the propagandists have taken that up when that's really not. I mean, that's a legal issue, right? And that's something that needs to be resolved. The chain of causation from where Brian Sicknick was day before the insurrection and 2 days after has to play out in a court of law and not in a court of propaganda and public opinion. And for that, it's critical for Brian Sicknick's mother to be able to speak with all Americans and to the world. And it would be nice if it was to the world, but to Congress, most definitely to Congress. And not in a closed session, because I don't know if she wants it in a closed session, but if she does, whatever she wants, but it needs to happen. Yeah? I said I was going to make it short, but it's 28 minutes. Sorry. Finally, I want to leave you all with something that is completely unrelated. And anyone who's gotten to this far, I really want to thank. And I really, really, really appreciate your time. Because that's what you're giving me. You're giving me your time. And time is precious. We've found that out, that time is precious. So there was a cyclone in the Bay of Bengal that has affected 10 million lives and livelihoods. I live in that area at the moment. I'm an American living abroad, as I've mentioned many times, to the disappointment of many who watch, who want to question very much my fealty to my country and constitution. But that doesn't mean that I cannot look past myself, my country, and my constitution, especially since circumstances have put me where I am today. So millions of people are destitute at the moment. Countless homes have been wiped away, mud huts. Countless businesses have been inundated with water, and they continue. Thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of acres of paddy fields and vegetable fields, farmland, have been salted by salt water. And if they're not just imminently taken out, the water, then it will salt the earth for the next 3 years. So it will cause a huge shortage of food in the region, which is home to millions of people. Bangladesh, West Bengal, and Orissa. Orissa and West Bengal are states in eastern India and Bangladesh, and we don't even know what's happening in Myanmar because it's under a coup. So we're in a hot mess, and I'm going to go back now and check the news on what's happening. Oh, by the way, the COVID thing is also ongoing. There's a COVID de facto lockdown in the state of West Bengal. I'm in Calcutta, and we're still swimming. We're all swimming in one way or another. And so I implore everybody to look beyond the ambit of themselves and really realize that it's not going to fix itself. It's not going to fix if we do it the same way. If we build the dams the same way, we're not going to be able to stop the storm surges and the sea level rise. If we do it the same way, we're not going to be able to get to the bottom of the most heinous domestic terror attack on American soil by a sitting American president on Congress. It's never happened before. This has never happened before. It's never happened before. I don't understand it. It's never happened. It's just like maybe the GOP is still shell-shocked. I don't know. Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy, they seem to be completely like ticked off and just on board with the Democrats when it happened. And then what happened? Their funders called. That's what happened. I'm answering it for you now. But it needs to happen. You need to be able to get it out to the people that stop looking at the distraction of Marge. Stop looking at the distraction of Lauren. Let Congress deal with them, how they deal with them. Appeal to your Congress people to get them out. But if not, you do the job of voting and getting 10 more like you to go out and vote in 2022 to get them out. With senators like Cruz and Rubio, you get them out through the vote. We got Donald out through the vote. We did. So we can get them out through the vote, and we can man the boundaries until then, and we can figure out new ways to ensure that there's fairness in this, the airwaves. And people are, if I come out and I'm ranting stuff sometimes, if I say, I don't know what I would say for YouTube to come and just block me, but it's happened before, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So, like, there needs to be fairness. There needs to be equity everywhere. Equity needs to be the platform of 2022. Equity is so much more than equality. Equity is justice. Equity is balance. There's so many hundreds of years of balance that we have to bring. And it's not just a linear type of process to do it. And we cannot do it by doing it the same way. So, I mean, I implore you to go out. And I've reached 34 minutes, and I think few people have come on. I really appreciate everybody. But I'm going to log off now, and I'll leave you with these thoughts. That there's work to do. It's our republic to keep. And I mean, that's not sort of a philosophical thing at this point right now. It's a very imminent thing for every American to do, is question your loyalty. And if you are not loyal to your Constitution and to America and the United States Constitution, if you don't understand it, go out and learn. If you refuse to learn it, then you don't belong in the United States. It's as clear as that. You especially don't belong in Congress if you don't believe that you need to stand up for the Constitution, if you don't believe that what happened on January 6th was a blatant slap in the face of democracy, of our republic, you don't belong in Congress. If you are peddling lies against people who have acted criminally in the face, in your face, everybody in the world saw it. Everybody in the world saw it. I mean, then you don't deserve to be in Congress. You don't even deserve to be an American. You need to retake the citizenship. You need to not retake, I'd have to retake, but you need to take the citizenship test that every single naturalized citizen has to take before they get naturalized. Government class and civics class should be a compulsory thing. And education should be free, goddammit. So, I mean, you know, it's disappointing. It's really disappointing. I really am disappointed on so many levels. But I'm also very hopeful on many levels because there are so many people on Twitter, and I'm only on Twitter and YouTube. I'm nowhere else. If just keep on going, you know, day and night, and reporters and journalists like I think Scott McFarlane and people like Don Winslow and Glenn Kirshner and like Jack Cooper and Kathy Griffin, and like there are people who were like, and the Kathy Griffin was so badgered, and then she just kept going, and many people. There are many people, and I'm not naming, like there's Ari Melber, and like I watched them all, like Rachel Maddow, and like even like the comedians, like you have to watch like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and Seth Meyers, and they just add it. You know, they don't like it's. You just don't stop. You can't stop. Anybody who loves America can't stop. Anybody who loves America can't stop until these people are put away. Like I was in awe of Washington, D.C. when I went there. I was in awe of it. And I still to this day am pissed off that I like involuntarily wiped every single picture I took from that trip. There's like 300 of them. Anyway, I had like 2 and I keep them as some of my favorite. But I was in awe when I was in DC. The thought of like doing anything but sit down and like think and meditate, I'm saying like a lot, is in a place like the Library of Congress or Capitol Steps or the Lincoln Memorial, or like it just, for me, it's even raising my voice in that area would be, I don't know, would take a lot from me. So I don't understand it still. I mean, I'm processing it on a very analytical point of view right now because things are happening. And it's been 5 months since I have babbled on. But I had to update and I had to let y'all know that, you know, it's the money. And it's you have to go after those people who are the donors. Donald is a headliner. The sedition continues. The commission must happen. Gladys Sicknick must speak, preferably to everybody in the country. Tomorrow, before the vote happens, before the Senate takes the vote on the bill of the January 6th Commission. So with that, thank you very much. I'm going to stop. I appreciate every single person who's come. And e pluribus unum.